start a story in the perspective of a young Izuku Midoriya, who is actually in the My Hero Academia world as of this moment. Seeing as the intro most likely gave away how he's going to get there, I'm kind of just going to be skipping to how all of this ends up going down. Now, at this moment, Deku is going to be approximately 8 years old. On this particular day, Deku would have just had his school day finished, and Deku would have needed to get picked up by his mother Inko. She would have been a little bit late running home from work, and so he would have decided to actually walk home himself. At this point, Deku would end up giving a smile towards his teacher and walking outside. He would be about 2 blocks away from his house before Deku would finally have to cross the street. Now, when Deku was crossing, he would be looking ahead, thinking nothing of anything, when out of nowhere, a villain with a huge pickup truck, or no, not a pickup truck, but truck-kun would pop up. Now, this gigantic truck would proceed to flatten Deku, and I mean completely obliterate this man. 1 second, he would close his eyes, the next minute, he would open them, and when he would open his eyes, he would see darkness for a moment, until he suddenly wakes up in a strange field. Everything looks different, everything looks old. Deku sees the world around him as if it would just changed. He feels as if he's not even in his own plane of existence, and Deku woke up very, very close to Konoha. Now, at this moment, Deku would begin to wonder to himself what he even needs to do. He would feel scared, he would not know exactly what to think. However, the young boy would decide to essentially walk towards the village. This is where he would smell food, see light, and see people up ahead near a strange gate. This is when Deku would proceed to tell the people that he just randomly plopped in there and he doesn't know where he is, asking them if they can help him find his mother. The 2 ninjas would then escort him back to the Hokage Hiruzen, where Hiruzen would ask Deku the same questions, being like, how did you get here? Deku would be completely oblivious to who this man is, and he would ask if he knows where his mom is, saying that he lives in Japan, saying basically his story. Hiruzen, hearing this, would think that this is extremely peculiar. He would begin to hear Deku out in his entire story, and he would then proceed to tell Izuku Midoriya that it might have just been a strange dream, a genjutsu, before Deku would say, what's a genjutsu? At this point, Hiruzen would be utterly shocked at Deku's just insane lack of knowledge for the world that he's in, and he would actually have somebody come in, Ibiki, I believe that is his name. Ibiki would walk in, and he would then proceed to do a couple of tests onto Deku, asking him a bunch of yes or no questions, to which Deku would pass. After this, Hiruzen would then begin to think to himself what he should do with this small child, thinking of putting him in an orphanage, but he would ultimately decide to actually have him live with Naruto. It's a genius idea, in his own words, and he thinks that this may give Naruto some hope of being treated better as a person. Not only that, but give him a friend, something that he believes Naruto desperately needs in order to grow into the great man that he knows Naruto would have become in the hands of Minato Mikushi. And so, we start a relationship between Naruto and Deku. Not that kind, but a special kind. More of a brotherly bond. Now, the way that this all starts off is Hiruzen would walk Deku over to Naruto's place. And when Deku sees Naruto, he would think, oh, that boy looks pretty strange. But Naruto seeing Deku would be like, who's he? Before Hiruzen begins to explain to Naruto that, Naruto boy, this kid, his name is Izuku Midoriya. He will actually be living with you from now on. Naruto would be elated, completely excited, and immediately he would offer Deku his best ramen. Deku would walk in there, and Hiruzen would actually say that he's going to be giving him more money now, because of the fact that now there's not only 1 mouth to feed, but 2. Electricity bill will rise, so Hiruzen would definitely end up accommodating for this. Deku and Naruto would both immediately go on to talk for the rest of the night, and so Deku and Naruto would proceed to then build a bond on this very same day. Deku at this point would notice the way that Naruto acts, his extremely extroverted personality, the way that his mannerisms, his actions, the way that he lays down in bed. Deku would notice all of these things and would realize that Naruto kind of seems a little scared, I guess you could say. Naruto at this point is actually going to be 8 years old and almost would have been starting the academy. But Deku would kind of begin to ask Naruto some questions about himself. Naruto would look down, saying that he might as well be honest with him, seeing as he's going to be living with him anyways. And so Naruto would explain to Deku the treatment of the villagers towards him. Deku would say that that's awful, proceeding to pretty much tell Naruto that he came from a place where he was an outcast, a place where he felt almost the same way that Naruto felt. And he would tell Naruto that they could almost be brothers by how similar their backstories were. And oh, Deku, if only you knew. But from here, Naruto would look at Deku and say, oh, well, I mean, I guess we now have something to both strive for. They would both look at each other, smile, and then go to sleep. Deku would be thinking that this is the start of a great new life, and he would also be crying somewhat because he's sad that he misses his mother. They would both end up growing for approximately 1 year, where they would train, bicker, uplift each other, and both Deku and Naruto would both strive for the goal of one day becoming the Hokage. They both do have very, very different reasons, because it's kind of a race. Now, Naruto wants to become a Hokage due to the fact that he wants respect, and Deku wants to become a Kage because he figures it's almost like being the hero of a village. And what does Deku want to be in the main story? He wants to be a hero, somebody similar to All Might who creates peace. So that idea of world peace is already stuck into Deku's mind, and Deku has somewhat enough idea what that looks like. There's not exactly killing in the world that he comes from, so when Deku ends up finding out more of these things, he is utterly shocked. When Deku grows up, he would end up figuring out knowledge that would help him along the way, and Naruto would end up growing more physically, growing stronger, and Deku would always remain smarter than Naruto. When Deku and Naruto both first would end up going to the library, Deku would end up noticing his treatment with villagers. Basically, a lot of the villagers really did not respect him and treated him almost the same way that they would treat Naruto, like an outcast. Deku, however, would have been used to this, but not exactly the strange looks. It's almost as if they wish he was dead. But Deku would simply put that to the side because he has somebody near him who he knows he can always trust and rely on. Naruto. Naruto is his brother, and somebody that Deku knows will never let him down. So, adjusting to this would be a little bit of a tough time, but Naruto would give him a beacon of hope. They would both go on to grow up, pulling pranks together, with sometimes Deku usually being against it, but every now and then, Deku wanting some recognition would also go along with pulling these pranks. One thing Deku would always notice is that, Naruto and himself never really did get in trouble, so Deku's whole little, his growing up phase is going to be a little bit different. He did have his mother Inko teach manners and stuff, so he would pass some of those knowledges, some of that knowledge onto his brother Naruto. And they would both go on to pretty much get better as people. Naruto starts helping Deku ease into the world of a ninja, and Deku would actually make Naruto be more of a respectable person. Not being so obnoxious, so Sakura starts kind of less disliking Naruto. She starts liking him a little teeny tiny bit. But Naruto and Deku would always be seen together. Always. They were inseparable. One day, however, they would both end up pretty much realizing that the next week is the day of the academy, where they would both go on to go into, and they would actually perform extremely well. Deku would do very average in terms of the physical aspect, like shuriken, fighting hand to hand. However, Deku was very, very good academically. Think Shikamaru levels of intelligence when it comes to tacticians and stuff like that. However, Deku is actually very, very keen to showing these things. Meaning a lot of people would actually want Deku to be around them just due to the fact that he is intelligent, and they're hoping that some of that rubs off on them. The person who the intelligence somewhat rubs off on is Naruto, who, while respecting his brother's decision of being more of a book nerd, would want to do more of the physical stuff. So whenever Naruto wasn't forcing Deku to do physical things, Deku would be forcing Naruto to do more of strenuous thinking things, and Naruto would hate every second of it. However, one thing Deku would have learned from books is training methods, as well as chakra control, which he would have been practicing by himself every day, and he would have also rented out books on books, simply trying to learn chakra control and how all of this stuff works. Now, Deku would have a very inept ability for chakra. He would actually be extremely talented. And many of you guys might be like, yo, how does Deku have chakra if he came from a different world? Wouldn't it make more sense for him to simply have one for all? True. However, if we do think of one thing, every single living creature has chakra. And I know that Deku is from a different world, but seeing as Deku got Isekaid, I'm going to be saying that the world simply equipped him with chakra. A little bit of a plot hole inside of the series that I'm making, but let's just live with it and move on. So Naruto would proceed to continue, getting the hang of this hard physical training and performing a lot actually better in the academy, just due to having his brother who would help him out with schools and not let Naruto fail as much as he would have before. He would have also helped Naruto perform one simple shadow clone jutsu and would have noticed that Naruto has an absurd amount of chakra, while Deku has more of a supply of chakra very similar to that of Kakashi. They would end up doing well in the academy, and Sasuke would actually be a person who pushes them both to be better than they were the previous day, because they were, simply put, never able to beat him. Sasuke always remained at the top of the class, and Naruto and Deku were both kind of jealous to it at an extent. Deku would kind of look up to Sasuke because of that and somewhat see Bakugo within Sasuke's being. Naruto was actually kind of jealous of Deku and always thought that, Deku was a little bit of a bookworm, saying that, if he had his knowledge, he would have much an easier time doing stuff. But, at the end of the day, it's not really that deep-rooted, and they're both just kids, if that makes sense. They would both go on to take the final, and they would both actually end up passing in terms of the Genin Academy, meaning there would be 0 Mizuki arc that would end up going down whatsoever. And many of you guys may be like, so Mizuki just gives Orochimaru the scroll of sealing? No, absolutely not. Hiruzen would end up actually stopping him by sending a couple of secret Anbu by watching Mizuki steal the scroll via his crystal ball. They would end up stopping him just in time, and the team that would have ended up taking Mizuki down would not really be too relevant. However, this is what we will now get into the very next day. The team would have been decided. Now, Team 7 would have been made up of Naruto, Deku, and Sasuke. And I'm pretty sure many of you guys probably saw this coming, because I was definitely going to be replacing the trash bag that is, drumroll please, Sakura. Yeah, we're replacing her. Like, it's gonna happen. I'm sorry, but Sakura is not going to be whatsoever present in the series. I just despise the character. Anyways, though, enough about me, more about the series. Sasuke, as I said before, would have been part of Team 7, and the team would actually end up sitting in the classroom, as every other team would actually be taken off by their Jonin senseis, when finally, about after, let's say, 2 hours, they would all end up having their introductions. Kakashi would end up arriving, telling them all a horrible excuse, saying that he got lost in the path of life, before then telling them all to meet him on top of the roof, to which all of them would do so, and introductions actually start off a bit different. Naruto would go first, claiming that he will be the greatest Hokage to ever live, saying that his likes are ramen, training, and his brother Deku. His dislikes are studying. Deku would then go on and say that he also wants to become a Hokage, and he also wants to accomplish world peace. He would say that his likes are BBQ and his brother, and his other likes are heroes. Kakashi hearing this would think that that's a little strange, but Deku would then say that he doesn't like villains and bullies, and he wants to achieve peace, just like All Might once again. Now, in terms of Sasuke is still going to be the same character. Naruto and Sasuke don't really affect his character too much in the beginning of the Naruto story, so Sasuke's introduction would remain exactly the same. The group would all simply stare at him like, excuse me, what? Before Sasuke would then be like, yeah, that's my goal. And then Kakashi would poof away, revealing that it was simply a shadow clone. Not only was it a shadow clone, but he couldn't have sent the shadow clone sooner. And so, the team would then part ways. Deku and Naruto, that same day, would actually end up going home, before Naruto says that he's going out. Naruto on this day would go to steal a bottle of sake, and he would end up running back home, where he would open this bottle right in front of Deku, sorry. Now, Deku seeing this bottle would say, Naruto, what's that? Before, Naruto just openly says, it's some sake. We're gonna drink it and we're gonna vow to protect each other and always be by each other's side. Deku would look at Naruto before saying that they don't need any of that stuff, that they already know that they're gonna be at each other's side, and that there's no real point to this. But Naruto would push forward, saying that they need this if they ever want to dream of becoming powerful ninjas, and they hope to keep these promises, that this sake will bind them together, like true brothers. Deku would kind of look at Sasuke before kind of gagging and thinking, whatever, down the hatch, before they both drink it and spit it out immediately, saying, what was that? They would both end up having a good laugh about this before then going to sleep the very next day, waking up and meeting Team 7 at the training ground. However, they end up waiting an entire 3 hours when Kakashi finally arrives, and per usual would end up giving the team a horrible excuse. Kakashi would then sit there awkwardly before coughing and then starting to explain that they're going to be doing the bell test. At this point, the team would immediately look at each other after Kakashi explains what's going to be going on, and Deku would be thinking everything through, with Naruto being excited. As soon as Kakashi begins counting down, Naruto would immediately rush at Kakashi, saying, "I'll get those bells, just you watch, Midoriya," before he then rushes right in at Kakashi, and Kakashi simply sighs, saying, "Oh boy." However, when Naruto rushes in, he actually does decently well. Naruto's skill in terms of taijutsu and chakra control is actually a little bit better than what it is in canon, meaning that Naruto actually does decently well against Kakashi. Deku, seeing this, would actually end up being forced to rush in, not wanting his brother to get hurt at all, and Sasuke would simply watch all of this go down in complete confusion, thinking that this is not at all what they should have been doing. The group then all proceeds to engage against Kakashi in a battle, all of them trying to use teamwork but getting in each other's ways at first. Kakashi notices this, and he ends up pretty much handling the team with ease, seeing as all of them have never worked together before, and Naruto and Deku working with each other a lot being more counterproductive than it was productive in itself. So the three of them would all kind of get in each other's way. And what would end up happening is Kakashi would pull the book out right in front of their faces. As soon as Sasuke sees this, he would think that he is, being disrespectful. And so he would rush in by himself before then abruptly getting kicked in his face by Kakashi, getting sent flying. This is when Deku would be recuperating himself, as he then says out loud, "We won't win alone," looking at Sasuke, telling him that he needs to trust his team, that if this is going to work out, they need to be a team. Sasuke would nod his head, and all three of them would rush in at Kakashi, being a bit sloppy at first, but then they would start slowly getting a hang of this, before slightly building a strategy, and Deku kind of just like nodding at both Sasuke and Naruto. Now, if you guys do remember, in the Land of the Waves, Naruto and Sasuke came up with an insane strategy, not even communicating to each other. So this is very much not at all far-fetched. So what would end up going down is that they would all continue rushing towards Kakashi's direction, and they would just continue fighting more and more and more. Now, at this point, Naruto would proceed to rush in, make a bunch of shadow clones, causing Kakashi not to see what's going on, as Deku would actually create a bunch of clones, and he would use substitution with one of them, before he then goes into the earth, using one of the earth jutsus, the headhunter jutsu, where he pretty much pops up from the ground, in case you guys don't know what that is, but they would all begin to rush Kakashi. For a moment, they would actually do extremely well in terms of teamwork. Sasuke would jump into the air as he would kick Kakashi and kick flips into a fireball jutsu. Naruto, seeing this, would immediately weave the hand signs for a wind bullet jutsu as the ball gets bigger. Kakashi would barely end up getting out of the way, and so this is when Deku would jump in, baiting Kakashi into substituting into another location. And when Kakashi does so, a bunch of the Deku clones would rush in, pushing Kakashi into a certain area that Deku was patiently waiting for him at. This is when, right at the perfect moment, Sasuke and Naruto would both come in, as all three of them would simultaneously attack Kakashi, causing Kakashi to jump into the air and split kick Sasuke and Naruto, or no, not Naruto, but Deku away, causing Deku to get poofed into a shadow. And when Kakashi sees this, he opens his eyes as Deku's arms just get thrust from the ground below him, and Kakashi has both of the bells actually taken from him. As soon as Kakashi would land, he would actually smile under his mask before stopping for a brief moment and thinking about his team. He would think, they're perfect, before he would then reminisce on his old team that consisted of Obito, Rin, himself, and the father of Naruto, Minato Namikaze. This is when he would proceed to congratulate all of them and tell them about Obito's ninja way, telling them that those who abandon the mission are scum, but those who abandon their friends, well, they're worse than scum. So he would invite Team 7 out to eat, saying that this is honestly the best that he could have hoped for, telling Team 7 that he's proud of them, and kind of using his charisma to have the team think that he was about to pay for this meal. When Kakashi finishes, he ends up pretty much using the body flicker jutsu to get out of there, leaving Sasuke, Naruto, and Deku with the bill. At this moment, Kakashi would think outside, saying, I never said I would pay, did I? And all of them would just be left with the bill, being extremely angry. Following these events, the team would then end up meeting up the very next day, where they would then go on 2 weeks worth of useless D-rank missions, catching cats, walking old ladies down the street, getting groceries for other people, yeah, things of those sort. But this is when Deku would politely, after about 2 weeks were over, not Naruto, keep in mind, Deku politely would end up asking for a higher ranking mission, to which Hiruzen would actually end up telling the team, sure thing, And Naruto would end up whispering in Deku's ears that if he didn't do it, he was going to have to do it because he was getting, frankly, sick and tired of these D-rank missions, saying that it doesn't test him, saying that if he's going to be Hokage, he needs something better. And so the team would walk away happy as they were all introduced to Tazuna that same day, who proceeded to badmouth them, but they were just happy that they were getting a C-rank mission. And so the team would end up pretty much meeting Team 7 at the bridge the very next day, with Kakashi thinking that they're all pretty much ready for this C-rank mission. And so they would all go out and meet at the village gates the very next day. This is when the team would proceed to set off and talk as a group a bit before they finally end up stumbling across a puddle. Now, Deku and Sasuke and Kakashi would actually end up noticing this, however, Naruto, who was into adaptive genjutsu, would not. And so, all three of them would immediately act. Kakashi would act as if he would have been taken out, and Deku would actually tell Naruto to be on his guard. When the brothers both immediately come rushing in, Sasuke would try to look cool, but Naruto and Deku, using a teamwork strategy they've worked on since they were kids, would actually end up putting it into full effect. They would perform this. Naruto would create a shadow clone, flinging Deku, his brother, right at one of the other demon brothers, right? And so Deku would come in and straight up just punch the demon brother clean, like knocking him out. He would just completely knock the brother out. And so when Naruto sees this, he would immediately close his eyes and be like, yes! Before doing that, like, pumping in the air kind of thing, I guess you could say, with his arm. Now, at this moment, what ended up happening after this is that Naruto would actually see one of the demon brothers coming right at him, who barely is able to dodge and actually was just about to react before Sasuke would come in and actually end up helping Naruto. Now, at this point, Naruto would get up before saying he had that, and then Sasuke would simply make a slight remark. After this, Kakashi would then go on to interrogate them, and they would all proceed to go along with the mission. After these events, what ended up going down is they would end up walking for about 2 hours before they end up running into a strange white bunny that Naruto would actually throw a kunai at, and when the team would see Naruto throw a kunai and freak out over a bunny, the team would abruptly freak out.
But if you guys want to see the